Next up, we're gearing up for our alumni panel moderated by our own alumni, Cynthia Gundy. And this panel is titled, Where Are They Now?
Hello. You hear me okay?
Yes, Gundy, we can hear you.
Okay. My video okay? I can get started?
We have a few more panelists that should be joining you, and they're coming in now.
Sounds good. Good afternoon and welcome to Com Week 2021. On behalf of our interim dean, Dr. Raquel Brown Burton, our faculty and our staff, we'd like to welcome you to the Where Are They Now series. You see, each year, our alumni return during Com Week to come sit as panelists and give us some insight on their career choices, where they are now, how they got there, and more importantly, that is, some industry insights we hope to get, right? My name is Cynthia Gundy. I'll be your moderator for the evening. I'm also a visiting professor here in the School of Communication, where I teach business and professional communication. And I'm also an alum. Yay! Go Tigers. So we'd like to welcome our guests to the School of Communication. Welcome you back, that is. And to our guests and our students who are out there. We'd like for you guys to participate as well. So feel free to put some questions in that chat and we'll get our panelists to answer as many as they can, as many as time permits. Okay, great. At this time, I'd like to kind of begin with the introductions. We've got two folks who are sitting with us today, two of our alum, Ms. Perez and Ms. Winfrey here. And I'm going to begin by giving them an opportunity to tell you who they are. They'll begin with their major, what your degree is in, your current title, as well as maybe a small synopsis of what you do. Okay, and if you'd like to start with us, please, Ms. Perez.
All right. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Samara Perez, and I just graduated from Texas Southern University School of Communication in May of 2020. So didn't really get to walk, but I did have the virtual graduation. So I'm with you guys on that. And my current title, my major was broadcast journalism, and I also had a minor in Spanish. And my current title is I'm a bilingual freelance journalist slash on-air talent slash digital content creator. So I'm kind of like doing it all at the moment. So at the moment I am freelancing, as I mentioned. I am writing for local news, and then I'm also writing for out-of-state publications in Vermont and in other states that I'm helping out. And I'm doing it in both languages. I'm doing it in English and I'm doing it in Spanish, and just working on other gigs on my own because I am my own brand. So that's what I'm up to these days.
Excellent. Fantastic. Ms. Winfrey, if you'll give us the same information, please.
All right. Well, hello, my name is Katira Winfrey. I am actually a graduate of class of 2009. My major was broadcast journalism, broadcast journalism. And I was trying to remember if there was anything else before saying what I do now. But right now, I'm the multicultural reporter in Indianapolis, Indiana at Wish TV Channel 8. I've been here just a little bit over a year now. And the cool thing about this job is it's very focused on shining a light on diverse community issues. So I'm talking about Black and Brown communities, Asian communities, deaf communities, LGBTQ communities. And so it's called a multicultural position because my sole focus is to go into those communities and tell those stories in a different perspective, or someone who has some kind of relatability to what those people might be experiencing.
Awesome. Great. Glad to have you. I see we've got one more guest who just arrived with us. Miss Hubbard, if you could just give us, let us know what your major was, what your degree is in, and your title, your current title, as well as what you're doing. Kind of give us an idea, a small synopsis of what it is you do.
Absolutely. Hello, Tigers. Excuse my tardiness. I'm actually at work now, so I just got off the air to come here and share my wisdom with you all. But my name is Paige Hubbard. I am a class of 2018 graduate from the School of Communication. I majored in broadcast journalism, and I am a MMJ reporter in Beaumont, Texas. Shortly after graduation, I got my start in Houston at a very unique opportunity called NTV Houston, where I was able to really cut my teeth as a reporter and hone in on my skills. And then just to gain a different skill set, I did some time on the assignments desk at KHOU, but my passion for storytelling brought me back in front of the camera, and so that's when I decided to leave Houston and come to Beaumont to really get that small market experience that reporters really need to move up in the ranks in this industry. But while I was in college, I interned. I call myself a serial interner because I was everywhere from Fox 26, KHOU, newspapers, radio, very involved with the TSU Herald during my time there, and launched a digital arm. So I'm just happy to be on and share again my wisdom and my testimony with you all, because if it wasn't for TSU and the SOC, I would not be able to accomplish some of the great things that I've had in my journalism journey, as I like to say.
Awesome. Yay, SOC. Well, listen, we're going to jump right into the questions here since we've only got 1 hour together. And I know I'm a yacker. So, hey, I'd really love to get as much as we possibly can in. So I'd like to jump straight out. We've got a lot of students who are graduating in May who are a little bit nervous, I'd assume, getting out here into these career waters. Can you talk a little bit about your first job? Straight out of college, you're degree in hand, you're ready to start beating the pavement. Can you give us an insight as to what your first job was straight out of college, Miss Winfrey?
Well, considering I've been around the block for a while now, I guess I can go. I've had several jobs, as you will come to know the longer you stay in this industry, unless you're lucky and you find a place that you really want to be and you're able to lay down some roots. But I grew up in Houston, so I knew chances are I wasn't going to get a start on air in Houston. So my first job was actually at Channel 8. After I graduated, I came here and I worked behind the scenes. I worked the assignments desk. I worked the web. I was an associate producer. I ended up back here because I have family who also lives here. And I was like, I'm going to come up here because I knew I'd have somewhere to stay and not have to worry about paying rent, and I could focus on my career. And sure enough, I connected with some TV people here. I don't know, some dramatic, just chance by chance. I ran into the sports director who introduced me to the news director, who they just happened to have a temporary web position open and was like, do you want to take the test? Yes, I do. And so that's kind of how it started. And so my first TV job was at Wish TV on the web. Then I also moved back to Houston and I worked on the assignments desk at KHOU, which was a valuable experience because you get to learn what is news. Why is this story important? And being in Houston, you have veteran reporters around you, so you just know. And so my very first on-air job, though, was in Midland, Odessa, Texas at KMID. I was what they called a one-man band reporter back then, which is essentially the same thing as an MMJ, multicultural report. Multimedia journalist, or even I think some people call them MSJs. So it's a whole variety, but basically you do everything. You shoot, you write, you edit, you pitch, you do everything. And so that's what I did in Midland, Odessa, Texas. And I stayed there for a year and then moved on and on and on. But I could talk on and on. So I'm going to try to stick to the
Yeah,
question.
I got you. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Perez, can you tell us how did you find your first job?
Actually, so let me backtrack to back when I was a student at TSU, because I kind of landed my first big opportunity at Channel 2 as it was a part-time temporary digital content contributor role, and I was still a student, so to me that was huge, and I was there for 6 months, and then I graduated. And then I decided to take a small break and work on my own things. So I haven't had like my first like full-time opportunity, but I'm on the hunt for that. But I did get to do that as still being a student, which was, I feel like it was a huge thing to do.
Right, right. Miss Hubbard, how about you? What about your first experience straight out of college? How did that look? What did that look like for you, your first job?
For me, the transition from being a student to actually entering the real working world was such a huge transition for me, because when I was in college, like I said, I was a very active student. I interned, so here I am with a very busy day, interning at KPRC, Fox 26, and then after graduation, everything just stopped. And so for the students who are getting ready to graduate, I just want to offer some advice. I know it can be scary, especially in these times in the pandemic, but you have to trust the process, and you also have to align yourself that will get you the opportunities you want. Just really quickly, I was interning with Channel 2 up until 2 weeks until I graduated. So I just thought okay, I got it in the bag. They've extended my internship several times. I just knew that they were going to offer me a job, but that didn't happen. And so when I graduated again, I found myself in this very uneasy position, because journalism is my passion, and I know that's what God called me to do. So I actually had to take a job outside of my field as a legal assistant before I actually landed a job in my field. And just another nugget of advice in this industry: sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. I say, who I know got me in the door, and what I knew kept me there, because my journey, I was able to meet some amazing people at my internship at KPRC. Long story short, the station that I ended up working at, NTV Houston, which was not a traditional station, but again, it gave me that opportunity as a journalist. When they were looking for people, they called one of my colleagues, and she said they were actually trying to offer her the job. And she said, "Hey, I'm not ready, but I know someone who is." And so that's kind of how I got my first start at NTV Houston. And then that just catapulted into a domino effect of other opportunities. So again, network. I know it may be different, networking is key. Again, I would not be here if it wasn't for the people that I have met that introduced me into resources and opportunities that allow me to advance in my career.
And I'm really glad that you hit on that networking piece, because that is something that I'm stressing now to our students in business and professional communication. Get that 30-second elevator speech together, man. Networking is very important, and you never know when you're going to run into that one person who can perhaps change your life, right? So thank you for that piece. I see now we have someone who jumped in here. Would that be you, Mr. Monk?
Yes, this is I.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Glad you could make it. Listen, we've all done introductions. So if you could take a moment and introduce yourself to everyone, and kind of give everyone your title and a small synopsis of what it is you do.
Yes. Apologies for being late. I am Tony Monk, production director for Esposure here in DeSoto, Texas, as well as founder and lead analyst for Spot On Sports, my own personal sports media company here in Dallas, Texas as well. Again, I apologize for being late. I was just wrapping up the show, so I had to go ahead and jump on in. But that's a little bit about me. Directing and sports is my grind and my passion. I've been pursuing that since I've been at Texas Southern. I see a couple familiar faces, Paige Hubbard as well, knowing her and her awesome work that she's done at TSU. Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to jump right into a couple of other questions that I had prepared for you guys that I wanted to try to get as many of them answered as possible. And one of them was, did you complete an internship? And Ms. Hubbard, I know you kind of talked a lot about your internship. And I heard you mention a little bit of something about an internship as well, Ms. Perez. But Mr. Monk, did you do any internships while you were a student at Texas Southern?
No, I actually did not. So I graduated around 2015, but I was one of the sports editors for the Texas Southern University Herald at the time, working with my lead editor, Nicole Hayes. And I didn't take an internship. I was busy working, trying to make sure I had some money in my pocket. And it's crazy that you mentioned that. And when I came on, I heard Paige say, it's who you know. At the time, I didn't totally take a hold of my career and what it could have been coming out of college. Me pursuing sports and even production happened after, post graduation. And that was me going back and, kind of starting my own thing, which eventually led me taking the role that I have today. But no, I did not have an internship, but I took it upon myself to see what did I need to do to get my face out there, to get noticed. I was definitely in touch with a lot of other program directors from different news stations. I freelanced for Fox Sports Southwest out here in the Las Colinas area. I stayed in the emails. I constantly asked opportunities until that opened the door up for me to be to shadow. And it was from there that I was offered my first basketball gig with doing simple stats for the broadcasters with the Dallas Mavericks games. And then that just kind of propelled me up to where I am now.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
I would like Miss Winfrey. Can you give us a day in the life of Miss Winfrey?
Yes, I can, but I also like to add that I also took a whole lot of internships.
Did you?
I feel Tony when he said he chose to work instead of missing out on funds because you don't get paid. I was lucky enough to be on the debate team, and I was the president at one point of the debate team. And in that role, you got a small stipend because you were like a student employee, like a teacher's assistant kind of thing. And so luckily I was able to make do, but just like Paige, I interned at Fox, twice at KTRK. I worked for the radio. I wrote for the paper, for the yearbook. I did other things. I did the radio at school. So I was kind of in everything. And then being on the debate team, that was an additional thing. And luckily for me, I had scholarships that covered my schooling. And so I just made it work. I don't know how, but yeah, internships for me were vital. And those partnerships with NABJ. And I've heard everyone say, make sure you make those connections.
Right.
I stayed in people's face. My first job with Wish TV, my aunt introduced me to this guy. I followed up. They had an event here in Indianapolis. At first, I wasn't going to go because I was like, I'm going to be by myself. And I said, Katiera, you're living by yourself. If you don't get up and go, the very first person I saw when I walked into that event was Anthony Calhoun, who immediately walked me over to the news director, introduced me, and left me with her. And I had to turn on the debate charm, like, oh,
That's
yes.
right.
And immediately she told me they had something else, and they invited me back. And then I was like, I'll work anywhere. And so then after the meeting, they said, I remember you said you'd work anywhere. We have a temporary web position. Do you want to take a writing test? Why, yes, I do. And so I just wanted to talk about those connections are valuable. Those internships,
Absolutely.
if you can afford to do an internship, do it. But even afterwards, it took me almost 3 years to get my first on-air job. That's a break with reality. It took me 1 year to get my behind-the-scenes job here. So it is a marathon, you hear me? And I'm not a traditional looking reporter. I don't look like the stereotypical reporter. So It is a constant battle. So I know I went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
I just want to add that the importance of making those connections. and that
And
it doesn't happen overnight.
and it's
So
important that you mentioned that some were paid and some were not. And so I
when
think
I
that
worked
that's
at an
key. But the
actual job,
experience
yeah,
overall was the most important.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
a day
If
in the life of Katiera. I don't know if you even still want me to answer that anymore.
Yeah. Go ahead if you can make it real quick.
I'll make it fast. So a day in the life of a reporter, I was supposed to be a reporter. I wasn't supposed to film. I hadn't picked up a camera in 5 years. But with this role and then COVID hit, we started to whittle down crews. And because I would have to cancel my shoots because they wouldn't have a photographer with me, I was like, I know how to work a camera. Come on. So I just started to film. So I'll pitch my stories just like you normally would, call and set them up. Or now I've been here enough that people will send me story ideas. And the one I had today, I set up alone. I had set up previously. I went out and filmed it, came back, edited it. As a matter of fact, it's going to air in like the next 3 or 4 minutes. And so,
Wow.
yeah, then
Wow.
before I came here while I was late, I had to go write my web story so that the web crew can go ahead and post it. So that's a
Gotcha.
day in life, but sometimes it can be way more hectic. Today, not so much.
Right, right. What about you, Miss Hubbard? What does your day look like?
Oh, okay, if just 1 second, I want to just piggyback off of my colleague here, Miss Winfrey. Forgive me if I say
Uh-huh.
your last incorrectly, but what you said was so important when it comes to internships. I really just want to touch on this because
Oh,
when
sure.
I heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to take that internship because I'm not getting paid. Let me tell you something. Every internship is a paid internship, regardless if you're getting money, experience, whatever it may be. My free opportunities, I worked for free when I was interning for radio and different organizations and platforms.
Uh-huh.
Those opportunities catapulted me into paid opportunities. So I just wanted to drop that nugget. Don't, you know, opportunity just because it doesn't have a dollar sign attached to it.
Right.
But a day of Paige Hubbard as an MMJ reporter. Some days I do have a photo talk, so that means the both of us, we go out in the field, we shoot our story. Some days I am by myself. No day is the same, as I'm sure my colleagues on the call can relate to. I work for a Sinclair station, so we have a different protocol versus other stations where y'all probably pitch y'all pitches the day of. We have editorial meetings, but we're required to send in our pitches a day ahead. So I have a morning meeting call every day at 9:15. They go over those story ideas. I pitch to them. I love community-based reporting and what's happening right here in our own backyard, enterprise stories. I'm not really a soft news type of gal. I love hard breaking news, things that are really going to benefit those folks who are watching. And so we have our call. As soon as I know what's expected of me, I immediately start getting the wheels turning in my head. Okay, this
Uh-huh.
is what I'm going to get. Oh, this is who I'm going to talk to. I start mapping out my day because in this industry, you work on very tight deadlines, And so today, for example, my story was about vaccine registration numbers here in Buckland in Southeast Texas. Well, I couldn't get those numbers. Nobody from the city was getting back to me. And so I had to take an interview and find a story and
Mm-hmm.
make it for our viewers. So no day is like the same. On those days where I do MMJ, essentially, like Miss Winfrey said, you're doing everything by yourself. Editing, shooting, writing, and it could be a lot. You could be doing all of that in extreme weather conditions, rain, sleet, or snow. I have to be out there. So if
Right.
this is not something that you love, I would find that love or that passion because there are hard days, but that passion is what's going to keep you going and what's going to make you stick to it.
Thank you. Miss Perez, you're freelance. How do you determine what story you're going after each day?
Right. So in my case, I have the opportunity to have the assignments given to me. So I'm also able to pitch my own stories. And with freelancing, I feel like you're more free to do the stories that you want to do. Because most the community papers that you're helping out or the out-of-state newspapers that you're helping out, they're in need of content. So they're more open to accepting whatever you pitch to them, you know, that relates to either the community or events going on. Like I could write about anything, like things to do in the city, about COVID, vaccinations, like from news to entertainment to a little bit of everything. So I'm more open. Yeah, so that's more flexible. It's not so much hard news, but it's also in there, and it's just different topics.
Gotcha. Thank you. Mr. Monk, I have students right now who are sports management major. They're not really sure about what they're going to do, if they want to someday maybe represent a talent or what. Can you give them some ideas as to what exactly it is that you're doing there? Can you explain a little bit more for those students who are majoring in that area?
So sports management is around my field because I'm more so as production and I have broadcasting ability. My thing, when I graduated from TSU, I was a journalism major, so I want to return back to broadcasting. As far as sports management and in establishing a relationship with players, and I'm going to try to take a swing at this because sports management is so different.
Okay.
My best advice would be it's starting out maybe in the production rooms because players tend to come in and out. And then I'm saying this because I deal with a lot of right now and Esposure is a production and gaming company. So I tend to deal with players who are interested in the gaming side. And so I have that opportunity to establish a relationship with them. As far as maybe searching for that internship in sports management that would be able to help them out. And I'm just really trying to give the best piece of advice I can with that. But the students will need to, you guys, the students that are watching this, need to figure out how do I connect with someone that can help me establish these relationships with players, because it's the hardest thing to do because you are representing them. We're talking money. Millions of dollars. I can go to the NFL and speak all day about these contracts and the one-year deals and how the NFL is expecting this massive TV deal to come soon enough. And so players know that they see this coming. COVID has messed up the cap so bad that a lot of franchises have less money. So students will need to is figuring out the ins and outs of how that works, seeing who's out there that they can pair up with to be able to train under a type of management and, hopefully get in contact with players.
Got you. And can you just also give us an idea of how the School of Communication prepared you for your position that you're in right now, to have your own business?
Yeah, so my journey is it's been crazy. So again, I was a writer for the Texas Southern University Herald at the time.
Right.
And upon graduating, I had an interview with the executive producer for Fox Sports Southwest, Dave Evans. And we sat in a room, and I think it was more of a test than just an interview itself. And to be honest, I wasn't ready. I sat down, I had all my articles that I had, and I didn't have a reel at the time, again, working and everything, so I didn't have time for the internships. So I didn't have a reel or any audio to show that I could do what I wanted to do. So I went back. And I started to Houston at the time when I was still standing for about another year. And I started up a little YouTube channel called Monk Spot. And what Monk Spot was just me. I would talk over the NFL games. I would give game day matchups, 4 to 5 games that are happening on Sunday. And I would say who would win. Eventually, I started writing out my own news stories saying, hey, here's 4 to 5 pieces of news that's happening throughout sports. And I would just push those videos out. But that was to show that I could do what I needed to do. And I would take that and I would send those same videos back to Dave Evans of Fox. And he would say, hey, work on this. Hey, try to do this. Hey, think about this. Who is your favorite people to watch? Why you should be watching them? And then eventually I moved back to Dallas in 2016. And then I started Spot on Sports because I wanted to expand myself as a broadcaster. Originally, it was only just to get a job. But then the whole thing blew up. So and now it's 20. I have about 25 plus people in Spot on Sports between broadcasters, reporters, because we're covering high school games, we cover intramural leagues, we do live events when we are able to. And the whole point of this was to create a stronghold or a place where broadcasters who didn't have opportunities to do internships could come and they could work on their craft. And so I realized, a lot of the same things you see on ESPN and NFL Network, I have an ability to do that. COVID kind of kicked in, so everybody moved to more of a virtual setting. That sounds easy enough, right? But at the same time, I knew I have ability to use green screen. I have the ability to use various edits as simple as Final Cut, which I know TSU Communication Department does teach. And it's just taking those things and saying, how can I make myself known through the various things that I have learned in school? And so taking that and teaching those same things to my members, a part of SOS, I eventually ran into Danny Martin, who's the CEO here at Esposure, and he needed a director because with this being a startup company, and we're actually running a show right now with HBCU Esports Alliance with a couple of schools now, and they're playing Rocket League and everything. But he needed a director at the time, and he had saw what I did with Spot on Sports, and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about having you as director." I'm still at Fox at the time, just learning how to edit. So to me, it was like, wow, that's a huge jump coming from that to just being a director. And so everything that I've done up to this point, though it may not have been through an internship or starting at a low level job, again, with Fox, I stayed there in their faces for about 5 years until the director there told me, "Hey, I got a gig for you with the Dallas Mavericks." I was just there trying to just put my hands on stuff, be seen, getting to know the employees that was there, establishing relationships. And he told me, if you keep coming around, they're going to give you some work. And I did that. And so, again, leading up here to being a production director in the fast-paced environment that has been my journey up to this.
Awesome. And Ms. Hubbard, can you tell us, give us one of your more exciting stories that you've had, that you've covered?
Well, this is a story that I actually covered when I was an intern, is when the Astros won the World Series. And I will never forget that day because it was such an exciting but chaotic day. And I really got to see, hands-on. Of course, I was an intern, but I was shadowing a reporter. And I just got to see, the importance of going live, being able to ad-lib and, quickly adapt in, like breaking or fast changing situations. Honestly, in news, sometimes you kind of get a lot of like I said, I do a lot of hard news, breaking news stories. So now I'm sitting here thinking about the question. I'm like, what exciting stories have I done? But the Astro story is what sticks out to me the most. And the time, I don't say if it was exciting, but it was very rewarding. The time I got to interview Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Awesome. Great. Same question to you, please, Ms. Winfrey. One of your most exciting.
Well, as Paige said, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint which one, considering we do at least 5 stories a week. So it's hard to pick out the most exciting, but the ones that kind of stick out in your memory the most would be the ones. I wouldn't say if it was the most exciting, but it's the one that I'm always thinking about. So right after George Floyd was killed, we had protests around the country. And I do pretty well with breaking news. Being on the debate team has helped me be able to speak off the cuff, no problem. But when you're in those hectic situations where emotions are high, sometimes fear can get the better of you. But considering I grew up in a rough part of town, I had a rough childhood, and being a Black woman in America, I didn't feel unsafe. I felt like I had to use this moment to tell the story and to be a voice. And so for me, being out there in the protests we had here, because there was some peaceful protests, but there was a lot of damage where our whole downtown was nearly decimated, the windows. It was a really bad situation. Right. But for me, everyone was asking, Katiera, were you scared? Were you scared? And I said, well, I was aware that things were hot, But I don't think I was scared because I actually volunteered to come to work that day because I knew how important it was. I didn't want a bunch of people on TV. Oh, these people are going crazy. They tearing up downtown. No, I wanted to give some context to the anger, to the frustration, to the feeling. And
Absolutely.
so I've done protests before. I've been in hectic situations before, but this was an all-day ordeal. I'm talking about I got tear gassed multiple times, but I still
Unbelievable.
felt like I needed to be there. I saw people breaking out glass. People almost got into a fight with one of our photographers. So it was definitely a hectic one, but I remember it because that was a moment in history where I think it's going to be remembered as a turning point in American history because now we're having these talks about equity. People are really
Right.
starting to open their eyes, not everybody, but I feel like it's one of those conversations now where you can talk about it now and people are talking about it and asking you more questions. So I just wanted to be a part of a moment in history because I knew it was valuable, and coming from a community that many Black people come from and that frame of reference that many of us had, I thought it was important to shape the story in the right way and to give context. And that was it was continuous coverage, straight back to back to back, as they call it, wall to wall coverage. And
Wow,
that
wow.
was an exciting moment for me, but a very fulfilling one, and one that I knew I needed to be a part of.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And same question for you too, please, Ms. Perez. Especially being a
Right.
freelance reporter. Yes.
So I was also thinking on that. And since I, like, during my time as a freelance, I've mostly done digital work. So I'm mostly behind the desk and, working on the computer. But I do want to go back to whenever I wasn't in an internship, but I was a student in an organization where we were able to get access to events and sporting events so we could get that experience. So I want to go back to 2016 when I was at Energy Stadium covering this huge sporting event for soccer. It was called Copa America Centenario, and that day it was Argentina, the national team, against USA. So to me, that's one of my biggest passions, soccer and sports. That's how I kind of like started getting into the media and communications world. So to me, being able to be there in the stadium and seeing, like one of the best players in the world, Messi, walk like a few feet in front of me, to me that was just like the most memorable thing I've done. And I did get to do like a package, even though it was like just practice. I was
Uh-huh.
able to have that as to show that I was there and I did some work, and it was awesome.
Awesome. Now, listen, one of my favorite journalists is a lady by the name of, and I'm sure you probably have heard of her too, Yamiche Alcindor. You heard of her? She's with,
Yeah.
yeah, with PBS. And
Hmm.
she just recently received an award from the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists. And my question to you, how important is it to be a part of some of these organizations? And for
A
some of our
question to be in
students who
what?
are currently, juniors and seniors, how important is it that they participate in some of these organizations?
I and I don't know who you want to ask that to, but I can
Or,
answer.
yeah, we'll start there. We can start with
Okay.
you, please.
When we talk about the struggle of even getting started in the industry, that's a struggle that I think is made larger being a Black person or a person of color. The NABJ is a safe space. I can't tell you how many conventions I've gone to, and I look around and there is a sense of pure joy to see people who look like me doing what I wanted to do and who are doing what I am doing. When you talk about those connections, NABJ is a pool of networking some of the friendships you make at those conventions or just at anything are friendships you'll have for a lifetime. There's so many people I've met on social media and I see them at a convention and I'm like, hey, cousin, friend. Yeah. So I think for people who already face an uphill battle, being a minority, being a curvy Black woman who has natural hair on television, you look around and you see other people who look like you. And we constantly talk about representation matters. 2021, representation matters. And so I think those organizations are vital. And I don't think they're ever going to not be if we're still living in the world that we're living in 20, 30, 40 years from now.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. I wanted to take a moment and check the chat and see if we had any questions come through yet before I continue on. Are we okay in the chat?
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still at work, so I'm like bouncing back and forth trying to make sure my story is okay.
Oh, we totally understand. I think we're okay. So my next question is around your response that you just gave to about how representation is occurring in journal and in the media. Can you speak to the progress we've made as far as representation in the media, in stories?
And I don't know if that's a question for me again, but yes, I can definitely. When I graduated in 2009, I was working at a place and I came to work with braids. And someone told me, you dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And in 2009, also was told I wouldn't get a job with natural hair. And in 2009, that was definitely a true statement. So I don't have a problem with that. But knowing that that was the norm, having a news director tell me to tame my hair, having a state representative to look at me one day and chuckle and say, bad hair day, to now we're seeing women like Yamiche, or we're seeing people like Melissa Harris Perry. We're seeing people across the board with natural hair. We're seeing guys with locks on television at a national level. I normally wear my hair in a braid out, but I decided to be a little extra and put some braids in. But 10 years ago, that wasn't the norm. I slowly have seen it change. And as far as plus size women or women who are heavier, I think that was some of the challenge and why it took me so long to get a job, because I didn't look the part. And so now, as we're talking about equity, we're talking about equity not only in race, we're talking about equity in physique, and as long as you're able to do the job. So I think there's still a long way to go, because I still feel like there's places that wouldn't hire me just solely on what I look like. Talent be damned. What you look like isn't what we're going for. So,
and I want to piggy,
but
thank you.
And I want to piggyback off that because it's so important. And I think even through in a journalist realm, the lens is white. We want to get so many minorities, African Americans, to be in this industry. When I walked into Fox Sports Southwest, they cover four games between the Pelicans, OKC, the Mavs, and the Spurs, if I haven't already said it. On a busy day, there's probably only 6 minorities in the building. 2 of them have a full-time job, and they're not on camera. I know a young lady by the name of Whitley Pleasant. She just got a job at ESPN. She had been there since I walked in that building in probably 2016, 17. Another young lady, and I'm not throwing shade on her when I say this, another young lady had came from UNT in Denton, Caucasian, and she got a job straight coming out of the internship. When Whitley's time on camera came, they gave her a 5-minute segment. That's it. The other young lady was covering high school games, and then Whitley eventually covered those games. But the point is, it's just the basis of opportunity that's there for us versus everyone else that we're up against. And we don't have to say the saying over that Black people have to work twice as hard. We want to come in with our own culture, our own style, and we want to be able to do that at the job of our choosing, at the place where we want to be. And the fact that we have to even fight for that is crazy. So I just wanted to really hit on that as far as, just the opportunity with African Americans and minorities in general.
And I definitely, to piggyback off of Mr. Monk really quickly, I am so blessed to be at a station where, most of our talent is Black, but the harsh reality, a lot of newsrooms across this country, we have situations where, we only have the one, token Black employee. So I think, when we're in those situations, it's up to us to speak up for our communities and use our platform to shed light on the issues, that matter to us, and also leave the door open for the next minority male or woman that, want to come through. And always do remember that the skin of your color does not hold you back, and if people try to treat you differently because of that, that's something that they have to deal with. You just, focus on what you can control and keep putting your best foot forward. But we do need to definitely see an increase of representation. Actually, just another tip, I've been interviewing with different stations, and one of the things that I go straight to their Meet the Teams page. And if I've been seeing not one person of color, I'm talking about Hispanic, Asian, Indian, so that's a red flag for me. And also too, don't be scared to ask employers, how do you feel about diversity in the current climate we're in right now in our country? I think that's a very respectable question to ask, and I feel like we shouldn't even be having this conversation in 2021, but we're here and we got to keep doing the work, and everybody has an opportunity.
Exactly. Sort of lift as you climb.
Yes.
Lift as you climb, right? So
we have some questions.
Miss Perez,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We have questions in the chat.
Okay, so let's take one of the questions from the chat.
Okay, so this question's for Samantha. As far as being a freelancer, how did you get the opportunity to write stories for different media platforms? How do you get assignments given to you so that you can write about them?
Okay, so this is kind of a long story, so I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. So whenever I was interning at KPRC, my internship was over, and I was like, okay, Miss Professor Sorbino Sandifer Walker was in contact with the new Director of Digital and Enterprise Content, David Arkin, who had just been hired at Channel 2. So he was looking for a student to help him out with the digital team. So Professor Walker contacted me, and she was like, hey, I think you'd be great for this. So I did the writing test and all that. So that's how I went back and had that temporary position. So Mr. Arkin left Channel 2. He got a new position, and he was, I think, out in Vermont. He's currently working for O'Rourke Media Group. So he was the one who contacted me, thanks to the work that I had done while under being at KPRC under his leadership. He contacted me, and he's like, hey, I have some publications that I need help with in Vermont, and I forget the other states. I don't know why. But he's like, I need this, and I need that. So whenever it's like these type of publications, either I feel like you can pitch the stories because they are in need of content, they are in need of help, or if you have that type of connection, they can reach out to you. But I've also done some freelancing stories for Miss Nakia Cooper. She's reached out for my help. She's all like, hey, I need stories in English, and she's like, can you do some in Spanish as well? So I'm like, yeah, of course. So it's like I've had the opportunity for people to reach out to me, but there is a lot of there's tons of publications, like even small ones. Obviously, the big news stations, like they have their team like ready, but the smaller local newspapers and digital platforms, they do need help. So it's just for what you're interested in, and shoot them an email like, hey, you guys need help, or hey, I have this story in mind I would like to write for. Like I know Houstonia magazine also has like freelancing opportunities that they pay you per story, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff.
Great. And our students can use that information too. Thank you for that. We have any more, Kimberly?
Yes, we have another one for Tony. Can you tell us about the project that you did working with Soldier Boy?
Yes, actually, yes. This is exactly the show that we're doing now, HBCU Esports The Yard. So week one, we're actually pushing this show out to Soldier Boy's Twitch stream as well. So he has a big hand within this whole organizations and the people that we are working with, Gillette and everyone else. And the whole point is to just have a competition, a scholarship competition, so that young gamers that's looking to really kind of break into the esports, they're playing Madden, 2K, PGA, Fortnite, and they compete. We're doing this show probably 3 to 4 times a week, and with a recap on the weekend. And Soldier Boy just gets in, doing interviews, talks about what he loves so much about this whole entire series that we're doing, and he's just letting us host, and just a great person that he is.
Now, is that the only celebrity you're working with doing that, or?
No, no. I'm actually working with Mr. If we got a couple, if we have some Madden people that are watching this right now, I'm working with Larry Ridley, who is the halftime voice of Madden. I've done shows with Wayno, who is big in this as far as the music side. Ivy Rivera, Free Marie. My biggest show, which probably had that star power, Lamont Hill from BET, was last November. I did a show with New Georgia Project out of Atlanta, and it was an election-based show. Yeah, around the time for the election, and I directed for that show. Lasted 12 hours, and then it was just 12 hours. I had to see it, and I direct the whole entire thing, and it from sun up to sundown was just the whole aspect of pushing out voting. It had gaming in it. Free Marie and the other people, Jesse Wu, Wayno and Ivy, our hosts, they stayed on the whole entire time just talking about the importance of Black people voting, especially at the time that we were coming out of with Donald Trump. And so these are the opportunities that are kind of coming in this esports and gaming and production industry. And I think the awesome part about being a director is you kind of get to call all the shots. So it has its pros. It definitely has its cons, as anything will, but it has its pros though.
Right. So listen, as we get ready to wrap up here, guys, I just want to ask you a quick question. As a matter of fact, for each of you, there should be someone walking into each of your rooms right now to hand you a card, a contribution card behind you. Each of you, behind you, someone should be walking into your rooms to hand you a contribution card to give to the School of Communication. Just kidding. Just kidding. But listen, I do want you to speak on the importance of giving back to the SOC before you get out of here. Why is it important to give back to the School of Communication, you think?
I'll go ahead and take the lead on that one. And I think I just admire the fact that we've all said that we're here bouncing back and forth from this panel and we're still at work. And it was very important for me to be on this panel because if it wasn't for the people that didn't reach their hand back and pour into me, I again will not be the woman that I am. So that's why I make it one of my missions to share my wisdom and share your experiences, because there's so much knowledge that can come from that. And hopefully, my journey, the good or the bad, can inspire the next person to say, oh, Paige did it like that. Maybe I'll try it like this, or I saw that didn't work out for her, maybe try it this way. But, the bottom line is just so important to pass the knowledge that you've had, especially in our TSU family, because, we got to stick together.
Absolutely. Thank you. What say you, Ms. Winfrey?
And I just realized I didn't put my whole name on the thing, so people are probably like, who is this person? But I think for me, it's always good to look back and appreciate where you've come from and not forget your roots and where you started. Just a decade ago, I was sitting in the School of Communication watching professionals thinking, oh, one day that's going to be me. They came through the same process as me. They've experienced the same campus, some of the same teachers. It is possible. And so I don't know if the value that you can get from seeing someone who looks like you, who's been through your same experience, is just amazing, and it gives you faith that you may otherwise not have. So I am a advocate. Whenever a professor calls on me, Katiera, can you do this? Katiera, can you talk to my students? I'm doing an interview with a student after this, as a matter of fact. So and whether you're in a financial spot to do that, it doesn't always need to be a financial
That's
give
right.
back.
That's
It can
right.
be knowledge give back, or
That's
time
right.
give back. And so I just think it's I would not give back. Like, I just wouldn't. I am always ready to roll. My phone is always ready for anybody from TSU calling me.
Right. Ms. Perez, why is it important?
Yes, I think it's just, I feel like if it wasn't for TSU and if it wasn't for the people my professors and the people who imparted their knowledge on me and helped me and pushed me, I wouldn't, know everything that I know and be where I am. So I just feel like just as a thanks to them and as a thanks to, the school, I would always want to give back and be there, even like Katira said, if it's not financially, it's with the time or with my own knowledge, things that I've learned along the way that can help other students out, I want to give back to TSU and just be there because there's just so many, like, you just, oh, sorry, I got nervous now, but yeah, I just feel like it's important.
Mr. Monk, I really appreciate you popping in here. I know you're running a little late. We're so glad to have you. Ms. Winfrey, invaluable. Thank you. Ms. Hubbard, great job. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And of course, Ms. Perez, I don't know, you vanished from our view, but we really want to thank you all for coming back. There you are. Thank you so much, all four of you, for coming back and giving back to the SOC. We really
Yes.
appreciate your invaluable input. And we'll definitely be seeing you next year. Okay?
Yeah.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Can we take a quick virtual selfie before we hang up? I'm just going to screen capture on the
Let's
count of
do
three.
it.
1, 2, 3. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank
take
y'all.
care.
Thank y'all. Thank you so
You
much.
did that
To all the
picture.
students, keep doing what y'all are doing. Stay busy. In order to make it work in this industry, you have to stay busy early. Keep going. Take a lot of no's to get that one yes that you need. Because once you get that yes, you will be there. Most of all, just do not quit. You see all these individuals here today, these lovely young women. It's harder for them than it is for anybody else. Know the things that the women have been going through as of late. Mistreatment in the NCAA, protecting our women. See, all these things have to be done. But the biggest thing is if y'all see them coming through and they're doing their thing, y'all can all do the same thing. So shout out to y'all for Women's Month as well, ladies.
Thank you
All
so
righty.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
all for joining us.